The verse of the day is Mark 9:23 through 24. And it says, "What do you mean if I can?" Jesus answered. "Anything is possible if a person believes." The father instantly cried out, "I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief." So to give a little context, a father brought Jesus his son who was demon possessed, and he wanted Jesus to heal him because he was explaining how this demon keeps throwing him into danger, and he keeps doing things that are life-threatening. So before today's verse, the father says, "Have mercy on us and help us if you can." And then that's when Jesus says, "What do you mean if I can?" Anything is possible if a person believes. Then the father said, "Help me with my unbelief." I love today's verse because I have had so much unbelief in my life. So many times in my walk with God even, I've doubted if he's real. I've doubted if this thing is even worth it. I've doubted myself. I've doubted so many things. And I love how the Father said, "Help my unbelief," because that is the secret sauce to overcoming your unbelief, right? Is asking God to help you overcome it. Because really, when we're battling with unbelief and we're doubting ourselves or we're doubting God, the enemy is after our mind. The enemy is trying to get us to doubt who God is and who we are. And I think that's one of the easiest ways to tell if your perspective is off is if you're doubting who God is or if you're doubting who you are. Not to say that you should be ashamed that you have doubt, because all of us experience doubt. It's in our doubt that we get to remember who God is, that we get to see God show up in a new way, which helps us understand a new layer of who he is, which strengthens our belief. So when you run to God with your doubt or your unbelief, you give God an opportunity to speak into that. You give God an opportunity to show up in a new way. Now you might be like, well, wait a second. Yesterday's verse says, "But you must really believe it will happen and have no doubt in your heart in order for those things to come true." And he says, "I tell you, you can pray for anything, and if you believe that you've received it, it will be yours." I think there's an order here. So when you have unbelief or doubt, run to God with that. Tell him about it so that God can help shift your perspective, so that God can speak into that, remind you what's true, and help your perspective align with his. And then after that, God's able to mold your perspective into truth, realign you. You're able to then have the belief necessary to walk out the things that you want. I think that's how God uses everything for good, right? God uses all of our doubt. He uses all of those moments where we question him, where we question ourselves, because it helps us see, oh, God is so powerful. He can change my mind. He can shift my mind. It gives you new revelation for how the devil comes after your mind, after your perspective. Now you're going to be able to have a grid for, wow, I felt so different 2 days ago, doubting God, doubting me, doubting everything. And today I feel free. Today I have perspective. Today I feel that everything's going to be okay. Now I have peace, but my circumstances haven't changed. And that's when you know that God has shown up and changed your perspective and settled your soul, because your circumstances haven't changed, but your inward peace has. This is why I am such an advocate of honest journaling, and I will say this till the day I die. Tell God anything you're feeling in your journal portion. Tell him your doubt, your unbelief, what you're angry about, any emotion you're feeling, tell him about it. Because when you give God your emotions, you're surrendering your emotions into his care. And remember, 2 days ago, we had the verse, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and strength." So when you love the Lord your God with all your heart, that means all your emotions. So you're giving God all of your emotions and you're surrendering them into his hands so that he can now speak truth into those feelings, speak truth over your emotions. So you're not led by feelings, but you're led by your faith. You're not a bad believer if you have unbelief. In fact, if you are courageous enough to face your unbelief rather than stuff it inside of you and just run through the motions, I believe you are more courageous because you're willing to face the uncertainty. And when you face the uncertainty with God, crazy, powerful things start to happen, and you're going to get crazy revelation for who God is and just see him in a new way. In fact, if you have to struggle with unbelief or doubt, I mean, look at it through the lens of the devil wants you to feel those things. So he's trying to get you to go off track. So if he's attacking you, trying to get your mind, that should be a compliment, right? He's intimidated by who you're becoming. He's intimidated by what you're starting to understand. When we face our unbelief, rather than stuffing it away and being scared to feel it or thinking that it's shameful to have unbelief, you're actually allowing yourself to have full healing and full understanding. And that's when it becomes a real, authentic relationship, because you're not faking it. And I think so often we get burnt out in the church because we start to fake it when we're having doubt. We start to push down those feelings of unbelief or doubt as if we should be ashamed, when you just need to feel it with God. When we push it down, we're actually in denial. And when we're in denial, it doesn't become authentic and genuine anymore, because those doubt and those feelings are still going to be down there. So it will continue to build and will just be harder for you in the long run. Where if you just give God everything that comes to the surface as it comes, you're going to be less afraid to feel doubt. You're going to be less afraid to feel unbelief, because you know you can process it with God, and you know that God gives you understanding and revelation when you need to know it. I love the phrase, anything is possible if a person believes, because that says that what you're wanting, the impossible is possible. We just have to do it in the right order, right? We just have to deal with our heart issues first to then get to the things that we want. And sometimes we're wanting certain things to happen, but we're having unbelief about it. So it's like, okay, God, help me have more confidence about the things that I'm wanting. Help me to have more confidence and faith in the job that I'm doing, in the purpose you've given me, in the gifts you've given me. Lord, help my unbelief in myself so that I can have more confidence to walk out the life you've called me to live. And then I can start to ask for things with all the belief, and you're just gonna sprinkle them in because you know that I'm ready to receive them. So the correct order is just go to God with your unbelief. And I just challenge you guys to be so brutally honest, and it will be refreshing, because that's you giving God your whole heart, letting him into every part of who you are. And that's when it starts to feel like a true, genuine relationship. And then the impossible starts to happen in your life. Okay?